Go. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Let's Play Season 3, Episode 128, and our very first time putting it on the podcast, although we just recorded 129. And we have Patty and Myrna and Ocean.
Hello.
Yeah, and I'm super excited to hear everyone's thoughts on Let's Play because it's going to be great.
Yeah.
So we ended off last time. We have a little bit of a recap from way back in 127.
That damn cliffhanger.
Yeah. Oh my God. The cliffhanger to end all cliffhangers because it took so long.
Yes.
Yes. So drunk Sam has climbed up to Charles' bedroom and is propositioning him. And he's like, no, if I let this go any further, I will no longer be able to call myself a gentleman. And he's hilarious because in his moment of panic, he still uses the most long-winded, like proper vocabulary and sentences. It's just,
I mean, when you're nervous, like when some people are nervous, they just talk. They're just like saying nonsense, just, you know.
Yeah. And I think he's also very taken aback because even then he's just like, well, damn.
Right? Yeah, nice. And his eyes, if you'll notice, are not on her face.
Oh man, can you imagine the simultaneous panic, the struggle, and the Jesus, how am I going to get this woman out of my room and still have her dignity intact? Like, what are we gonna do here?
Let's be realistic. What's going on in his head right now is my mind's telling me no. But you know, that's exactly what's going on.
Oh yes. Oh my God, bless it. And then Sam is just having none of it. She's like, whatever, give me your hand.
Touch me. Yep.
I love drunk Sam. She is a go-getter.
Yes. And yeah, what she said to him, I mean, it's not listed here, but like she curses at him. Like, what?
I know.
Like, I did not expect those words coming out of her mouth.
Oh my, I have to say, it's like, I feel like this is like inner Sam talking, you know, they say, you know, about drunk thoughts, you know, or like drunk speeches, sober thoughts, you so, you know.
Oh yeah.
But my favorite part about this whole thing is we continue fucking finally.
Yes. That was the best. And we're at that heart with the, you know, the half shaded, half light. So I mean, I'm kind of saying things that are obvious, but because we never talked about it on the, you know, on the podcast before, there's a very strong motif of the hearts. There's 3 hearts on top, and they're being filled in or being thawed or being icy is like a very big motif here. And we always have to pay very close attention to what's going on with those hearts because they symbolize what is going on with the hearts of the people.
Right.
Absolutely. It's a very video game kind of thing. Not that I'm like a video gamer or nothing, but the great thing about this comic is that Mongi makes it so obvious. She's like, here, this is stuff that everybody knows. Let me throw this in here. And I love, like, I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent, but I love the way she personifies emotions. Yes. My little therapist heart grabs onto that and I just love it. So that really like did it for me with this comic. And I blew through it in like a week when I first read it. So
yeah. Same. I totally binged it. Oh, nice. Yep. So here we are. We continue, and we have a panel of Sam, you know, lying on her side. We just see her face. She's sighing, nuzzling. Looks like she's waking up, and she's thinking, my head is foggy. And she thinks back to last night, where she puts Charles's hand on her bare stomach, lifts up her shirt, puts his hand on her stomach, and says, I want to know what you feel like, please. And now we find out what happened, because all along we've been like, what happened? And a lot of us guessed pretty much exactly what he says. He sighs, and, you know, this is a sad sigh, but a resolved sigh. And he says, I'm sorry, Samara. And he withdraws his hand, but I can't do that. You've been drinking and are not acting yourself. It would be wrong for me to let things go any further. No matter what you say, I will not be touching you like that tonight. And he's sweating and blushing, but he's sat, and this is the right decision.
Yeah. And I think, like, and somebody brought this up, you know, usually I don't pay too much attention to the YouTube webtoon comments, but one of the things that was kind of said was that, you know, this is a great moment, and, you know, we want to give kudos to Charles, and yes, we do. However, I think it's one of those things where this should be like the standard and not the moment of kudos. Like, he's setting the bar. So, you know, I think that that's really important. And what I found really interesting about his reaction here is that he says, like, he's saying this out loud as if he's trying to convince himself, like, no matter what you say, I will not be touching you like that tonight. Like, it's like he's being very clear with her about boundaries, and I think that's great, but I think he's also trying to convince himself, because if you look at his facial expressions, he is having a hard time here.
Well, I mean, if you notice when he sighs, it's actually in a heart shaped.
Yeah.
Like, you know. So, I mean, again,
oh my God, it's so cute.
That's why they call it self-control for a reason, right? Is that you have to control yourself. I mean, like, you know, in our base instincts, I mean, of course, you know, our base instincts to be like, yes, you know, but that's what makes us human, though, is that we have that ability to control ourselves and say, not a good idea. So, you know, it's not necessarily bad to want to, it's actually acting on that. So,
for sure.
Really, Charles should be the standard. Unfortunately, of course,
I get you.
You know?
Yeah, 100%.
All the people, especially maybe younger ones who might be reading, this is what you need. This is what you're looking for. This is just the base standard. You know?
Yes. Yeah. Goodness. But oh God, Sam, look at her face. It just broke my heart, because she's just like, oh God, rejection.
I know.
But Charles's reaction to that is impeccable. So first, he tells her, I think it would be best if you slept things off. And she, you know, her head drops and she's blushing. And he says, I'm sorry. I know it's not what you wanted to hear, which is so understanding and validating, you know. That's like the classic validation, where you look at a person's feelings and you express what they're feeling so they feel heard. And Sam covers herself, starts shivering, and she says, I should have known. I don't know what I was thinking. And Charles's face there, it's so beautiful, because he feels for her, and he just sees what she's experiencing and the shame that she's feeling, and he doesn't want her to feel that way.
It's so sad. You just know that she's thinking back to Link in the way that he rejected her, and I feel like she's almost anticipating him to say something similar to that. Like, how heart crushing would that be for someone to just say, I just don't find you attractive? Like,
yeah, especially in a moment where you've made yourself, drunk or not, you've made yourself entirely vulnerable. You're waltzing into this guy's bedroom and like, hey, I want you, like being very overt about it. And then they're just like, yeah, no. But he doesn't do that here.
Even if you do have good self-esteem, that's hurt, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, especially if that's what you hear in the moment, is like, I don't think it's a good idea, you know. Before they've had a chance to explain it. But even if they do explain it, it's still saying like, I'm not wanted, you know. So I'm sure anybody, no matter how great of self-esteem you have. So especially, you know, her self-esteem isn't great because, you know, like, she's been coddled pretty much her whole life. And then like the one time that she took like any sort of a step out, she got shut down super quick and told that somebody didn't think that she was attractive. So, you know,
especially
Sorry,
what were you going to say?
Oh no, I was just saying it's not going well for her.
Sorry. That's okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, especially because she's drunk, your perception's a little bit off, because there's the whole what did they say and what did you hear? So I'm sure in her mind when he said no matter what you say, she's just hearing what Link said all over again.
Yeah, and she's not reading his facial cues either, because if she was in her right mind, which this would be a different story if she wasn't drunk, right? But she's not reading his facial expressions. She's not seeing that he's trying to restrain himself. You know, she's just so caught up in her own mind right now.
Mhm. And what I do love about that is that she isn't just running out of the room. She's still staying to say what she feels. She's able to express her feelings with Charles. And I mentioned Alyssa a little bit on the previous / next episode that we discussed, where I recognize that Sam is very open with Charles, and in a way that I'm really surprised at, because she really does have a lot of courage. And I remember, there's this great phrase that being brave is not being fearless. Being brave is taking the right steps in the presence of fear. And that's what Sam does. Sam has a lot of anxiety and fear and shyness, and she overcomes that to express her feelings to Charles, which she's done continually. And I admire that a lot, because I say, like, I'm not a person who feels fear. I think I felt fear like 3 times in my life, very, very, very rarely. And, people can say, oh, you're great, you're very bold. I'm like, I was born that way. It's not hard for me. But for Sam to overcome the very, very, very high fear that she has and express her feelings to Charles before and now is just so admirable and just beautiful to see.
And I think it's important for both of them too, because I think the only reason that Sam, other than, she's building her courage and she's building her confidence, is that Charles has given her or has made himself available as a safe person to open up to. He hasn't rejected her in the same ways or judged her in the ways that she's expected him to. And quite the contrary, most of the time he's like, hey, did you think about it this way? Or this is my perspective on it, but tell me what you think. He's always asking her perspective and how are you going to navigate this? And he's made a point to be that safe person for her. I don't know that anybody else really has, outside of Umed, who's, just a friend of hers,
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that she is standing there just kind of goes to show you how much their relationship has improved and how safe does feel with him, is that she isn't immediately running out. Like, it's one thing for him to, portray that he's a safe space. It's a whole other thing for her to realize he is a safe space. And by her actions, even though she's drunk, she recognizes that, okay, Charles is safe. I can tell him, that I feel upset.
Yeah, and that's what she does. She says, I finally felt the courage to ask for what I wanted, but I should have known the answer would be no. And she droops her head. And then she does turn around and she's covering herself. That's classic signs of shame. And she obviously is pretty exposed, much more than she normally is. And she is covering herself because she feels like, okay, this is the body that he doesn't want. And she says, I'm such an idiot. But then we have a shift, and Charles is coming out of the bed and he grabs her waist and he says, Samara, wait. And he turns her around. He says, please understand, I do want to touch and hold you, but it wouldn't be right to do it like this, especially when it's your first time. I am not rejecting you. I am refusing your proposition. We love you, Charles.
Let's analyze some body language here, ladies. So I like what you said earlier, Mindy, about, she's covering herself, she's holding herself, trying to comfort herself. And you're saying, like, he's rejecting this body. It's me he doesn't like. I'm not attractive, or he doesn't want this. And then the very next panel, he's grabbing for her. He's like, no, that's not what I mean. And then he's cradling her. And I think the position that they're in, that he stays seated while she's standing, that's huge in terms of power dynamics, because ultimately he has the upper hand here, but he's staying below her level and staying seated so that, she still has a choice in this, because she could still get out of that grasp and run and move, but she stays and she listens to what he has to say.
I love your therapist view. I know so many therapists, and I just absolutely I love that, because that's how I feel too, is that, he's, I mean, he's obviously a pretty tall dude next to her. I mean, he's sitting and he still comes up to like her face, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If he wanted to, treat her like a child, basically, like a lot of like people have, he could like sit down there and look at her, look down on her, but no, he's having her look down on him, and it's definitely, changes things up a bit.
And if you look at his body language, everything is open. Yeah, sure, he's man spreading. I know we can sit here and Google it, ogle at that all we want, but like, I think it's important that he's maintaining an open stance. Even when he's holding her, his arms are still, kind of they look relaxed to me, and he's like, hey, hang on. I can almost hear his tone of voice. His cadence would be really slow here.
Yeah. He's so experienced and sensitive, remarkably, for somebody who's been so hurt. Sometimes, we know that he's shut his caring side off in general, but with her, it just comes right out. And like, you get a sense for what he was like before he got so wounded. He must have been a real sweetheart.
So basically, I mean, not only is she like safe and comfortable for him, I mean, not only is he safe and comfortable for her, she's safe and comfortable for him, because, like, think about his reaction to Eva and Rosewood, you know what I mean? He's still, like, if you like look, maybe it's because I've been rereading lately, but his reaction to them is so different than his reaction.
Yeah, because you're talking about a guy who, one, doesn't do emotions. He's like, no, this is not an emotional entanglement I'm having with you, Miss Rosewood. And two, he doesn't do sleepovers, and he's doing both of those things here. And so you're absolutely right, Myrna, that, they are definitely open to each other, and they're giving to each other.
I think that he doesn't even realize it, but I mean, he's like different for her, he is different for her than he is for the other women that were in his life. And where it was just about, he's like, we're not forming attachments, as he told, he's like, she doesn't cross the line, she doesn't form an attachment, but it's completely different. There is an attachment there, whether he likes it or not.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, I love it. And he continues to try to explain to her. He says, I would never forgive myself if we did something you regretted in the morning. And the look on his face, like he's really trying to convince her, and he's anxious about her perceiving it in the right way. He doesn't want to hurt her feelings. She's sniffing here, crying, right? And, the next panel we see is her crying. And
I just want to point out real quick is that he specifically says that I'm not rejecting you. So he knows not only is he like, trying to comfort her, but he's specifically saying like, you are not rejected. He's not closing that door. So
he's quite emotionally perceptive, and I do think that his age and experience plays a part in this. I think if he was a 20-year-old man, he would not be able to pick up on all these feelings and respond to her that way.
Probably not. Probably not. That frontal lobe is not fully developed, ladies.
Yeah.
No. Patty, you and I feel the exact same way on these things. I keep telling him it's not worth it getting with a man in his younger 20s because the frontal lobe is not developed.
Yeah.
This is experience that this is like experience that he got from being married 100%. You know what I mean? Which makes it even, because that his wife was probably like, used to tell him about her needs and that kind of stuff. And he just kind of has to wonder, where did it all go wrong? Because men don't pick up on these things, even if they're like in their 30s, they don't pick it up. I love my husband to death.
Yeah.
35, and I have to be. This is how I feel about this. And as we've been married for this past, decade or so, he's gotten better at noticing these things. But let me tell you, he was, already, 25, almost 26 when we got married. He still was like, well, why are you so upset? You can pick up on these things now, decade later.
It takes time.
Okay, I got it. Like, here, get her some ice cream because I know I'm something stupid.
Oh, yes. I
feel
am
like
right there with you. Go ahead.
I feel like it's definitely a personality thing too, because I feel like my husband is very receptive to how I'm feeling. Like I'm very closed off with my feelings, and like so I'll just be like, yeah, I'm fine. He's just like, no, you're not, and he'll be like, it's probably like blah 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 blah, and I'm like, wow, like I didn't even realize that I was feeling that way. Like you're really perceptive. Like I wasn't really trying to talk about that, but like now that you brought it up, like the fountain is coming out. Like
Oh,
I don't know.
sweet.
I feel like
Well-
Charles is probably like that too.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about, you know, and I'm not saying this happens in every case, but one of the things that we find in my field is that people tend to find someone that exhibits what they wish they could be like in some ways. So for those of us who are more reserved, more kind of like, and I'm like this, I'm not as much anymore, but like I used to be very rigid, very strict, and my husband, he is just like the exact opposite of that. I mean, you want to talk about somebody who flies by the seat of his pants all the time, every day, and it drives me nuts. And simultaneously it helps me understand that like it's okay to let certain things go. It's okay to not be as rigid.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because I talk so many times about like how they, you know, they say opposites attract and stuff like that. And I was like, well, it's really complementary attributes attract. Like, you know, I'm that like free, crazy person, and my husband's the more like rigid one. He's like, you know, super introverted, and it's great because he's gotten me to like sit at home, but I'm the one getting him out of the house. You know what I mean? Like, like at first, you know, I'm very like outgoing, and I'm the one who's like getting the friends to come over and stuff like that. And he's the one who like, you know, is more like, okay, we need to like make our home like a nice space to be in and stuff like that. But Sam and Charles, I think that's why I think I really like them as endgame, is because I feel like their attitudes are very complementary to each other. She's, you know, she allows herself to be very vulnerable, which Charles doesn't, you know?
Yeah.
And like when you find a partner, especially like the longer you're together, like the more attributes you start to share with each other. And I think that it's like, it can be good because like, you know, being with Charles, Sam can learn to not be so vulnerable in front of the wrong people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She can definitely, you know, start, you know, like sharing like strong energy, like especially in front of her dad, who still treats her like a child. But she can help him, you know, start to like let go and, you know, be a little bit more vulnerable, at least with her, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely think they have complementary traits, like you said. And, you know, the reason that he is allowing her in his life and not Miss Rosewood and Eva is because she has that softness and that kindness that they don't seem to have.
Right.
That is very true. Goodness.
Yeah. So she's crying, and you know, he strokes her cheek gently. I mean, the the amount of absolutely appropriate and beautiful and amazing like touches is just amazing. And he's like, Bunty, please don't cry. And that look on his face, it's like he also is like almost near tears because of the pain she's in. And that's like empathic emotion. You know, that's somebody who feels other people's emotions. I'm like guaranteeing you that he was what?
Somebody whose ice hearts got melted.
Right?
Yep.
Like I bet you before his wife cheated on him, he was the sweetest little thing ever.
Oh yeah.
And you want to talk about somebody who's got a goddamn fortress around his heart. This man really does. And for him to like lower the gates for her, that's huge.
Oh yeah.
He does it without even realizing. He is just being sucked into her gravity without being able to do anything about it.
I'm honestly surprised that we don't see one of his chains break here.
Yeah.
So like he's controlling himself. Obviously control still has those, you know, chains on him.
Right.
But I feel like one is like almost unlocked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think we're getting
I feel like
there.
the difference with like the chains is like he's controlling his own emotions. Like I feel like he's pretty open to helping her through her problems, but I
Mhm.
feel like he's still like not being vulnerable with her about himself. And I feel like that's like part of like maybe why we don't see the chains break, but
Mhm.
he's I don't know. He is being pretty vulnerable with her here though too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think I think I agree with your point. She's the one, I do think that she is the one being vulnerable, and while he's being soft and sensitive and open with her, it's not about him. He doesn't have to share his weakness. He's quite
That's
confident,
true.
you know. He's I think he's okay and comfortable with the role of comforter, but he doesn't have to share any of his soft spots and his weaknesses and his traumas.
Mhm.
So, you know, it's about
Yeah.
her. And he really does make it about her. He's like, settle down here, Bunty. It's okay. And he has her sit on his lap. Oh, my heart's melting. You talk about his heart melting. All of our hearts melted.
I was like, yay, cuddle time.
We love it. And she's like, I can't stop crying. And she, you know, like that. And he says, that would be the whiskey. It makes me cry too. Oh,
Okay, now that's being a little vulnerable, okay, but
Just
Yeah.
a little bit. Yeah.
Well, he's so intently focused on her. You see his expression. His eyebrows are furrowed a bit. He really, really is focused on her and her emotions. And she's like, I was trying to seduce you. And she's sobbing. And he says, that was the whiskey talking. It was a good effort though. And, you know, she leans in against him. It's just so sweet. She's snuggling against his neck. You know, she's really comfortable with him. And I have to say, you know, this is my little guys, my little hope for the future, which I don't know, but you know, that feeling that you have of like being able to click with someone like that, I don't know, I think it's pretty special. I don't know if it happens with everybody.
Goodness. Yeah. And like, I like what you said earlier, Mindy, about how he's really focused on her emotions. And I think the big key here is, and I wrote this in my notes, I was like, he's focused on what she's able to handle and how she's feeling. And, you know, he doesn't blame her for her feelings. He doesn't judge her for her feelings and what she's going through. You know, he encourages them. He's like, hey, you know, trust me. Like, because she says, but you said no. And he's like, also because of the whiskey, believe me. So like,
it would have been
yeah. Like any other time, like, trust me, I'd be down.
Literally.
So,
Sorry.
I love that he's not denying his own feelings for her here, because he could easily say like, no, it's just because you're drunk, blah, 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 but he's actually validating how she's feeling at the same time.
Yeah. I know, right? He's such a gentleman.
I love it. She's like, whiskey sucks. I'm like, yes, girl. Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. Honestly, for some reason, this reminds me of like me when I'm PMSing with my husband. Like that's right here, me crying over something stupid, you know, like it's okay.
Yep. And then we do get snuggles, ladies. We do get snuggles.
Awesome. Yeah. He moves the blanket over her. He's like, let's get you warmed up. Oh, and she's like, and then she just like switches. This is back to drunk mode. And she's like, Charles, did you know that swans can be gay? And he like smiles. He's like, yes, I did. You already told me. The ugly sob. It's so beautiful. Can't you just picture their gay little necks making heart shapes with each other? And he's rocking her and he's like, it's so cute.
Aww. Me with my husband crying over something stupid, you know, like, you know, I just gained some affection.
Oh my God, I can't with her. It was a perfect moment for some comedic relief. So kudos, Mongi, for that one.
Comedic relief and some beautiful abs peeping out over this shirt, which is very
has more cleavage than I do. Like I don't have a small chest, and man's got just about as much, if not more, than I do cleavage wise. Like,
yeah, well, I guess he works out.
You can join the big titty committee.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I don't know. Between him and Quincy from Midnight Poppyland, like I'm dying for blonde men this week. I cannot deal. I cannot deal.
One of my favorite pictures of all time is he's in a K-pop group, but he's from Los Angeles. His stage name is 𝗵𝗀, and his name is just Matthew. But they were at like this, I think it was like an award show or something like that, and he held a sign. He's known as being like the big titty guy because he said during a live one time, he's like, a man's got to have big pecs, you know. So he's like, you know, man's got to work their titties. And over this, they're at some like award show or something, and he held a sign over a guy from another K-pop group that said "Big Titty Gang" and was pointing at this other guy because he's known for being like super jacked. And all I can see is like BM standing over Quincy holding his big titty gangs. And now Charles.
We need to give awards to the buttons on those men's shirts because I don't know how they're holding up. I really don't.
I'm pretty sure Charles buys like the finest pajamas available, high quality, stretchable, comfortable,
for thread holding them together.
Oh my God, bless it. We will take the fan service.
Oh yes. Oh yes. So Samira is thinking to herself, my memories from last night are hazy. And then she's like, what a weird dream. Okay then.
Sure, honey. That was kind of vivid for being a dream. Just saying.
She groans and she turns, just like, thank goodness that's all it was. But guess where her face lands up?
Right in the
head hurts. It would be really embarrassing if it wasn't. And boom, her face is smack in those titties you were talking about.
Oh my God, I would die just like her.
I would not die. I would just go right back, put my head even deeper. That's what I would do.
Your balls feel amazing.
Right.
Oh my God. Can we just take a moment to appreciate how happy Charles looks right here as he's holding her? Like,
sleeping so peacefully.
I know. This is what he wants.
No.
Husband material.
Exactly. He just wants a lover, someone who loves him. It's nice to him. Doesn't cheat on him.
With his girl wearing his shirt.
Yeah, that's, well, of course he had to take it off because she was cold, not because of us and our needs.
Conveniently placed fan service.
Yep, which way back in like season 1 was fourth wall breaker, you know.
Yes.
Great. So she flinches, she jumps, she's red, and he wakes up and he's like, 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪, which means good morning, Bunty, sleep well. No shame, no embarrassment, just a huge grin. He's like, this is great. Lady in my bed, totally fine with me.
That fucking wink, I'm telling you, that goddamn wink, and that smirk, sir, that is obscene. You need to cool it.
He planned it out. He like thought about it in the morning. He's just like, how can I be really cool? Like, when he wakes up.
Oh gosh, I love that. You know, and he's in total like time to tease mode.
It's super sexy when he does it. When I do it, it's because my eyelashes are like glued together from like eye gunk, you know, that I've had over that. Like,
yes.
You know?
Let me say, I once watched a movie. It was called The Holiday. It's a Netflix special thingy. And this couple, well, they're not a couple at that point, but they sleep in the same bed, they fall asleep. They're not a couple, they wake up, and then this is the first time getting romantic. He moves to kiss her. And she says, oh, I always thought it was so gross in movies where they wake up and they kiss. And he was like, I don't care, let's kiss anyway. And I was like, yes, girl, when I wake up, I got that gunk, my breath smells. I don't mind about like my hair being a mess. I usually have mascara smudged because I don't remove my makeup, so it just gets smudged during the night. I'm like, I have to go to the bathroom. I'm like, I don't do anything in the morning until I go to the bathroom and clean up.
Like, I'm not even mentally there when I wake up in the morning. Like, it takes me a minute for like my brain to switch on. So like,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
I think we're 4 for 4 on that.
I don't know. I usually wake up like somewhat in the same way like Sam does, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna keep laying here. If something happens, it happens, bad breath and all.
Yeah. Wow, I'm impressed. I will say that my husband and I have like differing desires. He's always like interested in the morning, and I have zero interest in the morning, and I'm always interested at night, and he always falls asleep. So it's a bit of a problem.
Wow. Goodness. And then we have the blush meter off the damn charts.
Yes. It is awesome.
fire. Like,
And like, don't get me wrong, this is huge for Sam, right? Like, she's never slept in another man's bed in that way. She's like, holy crap, what did I do? And I'm just sitting there thinking, girl, what are you gonna do when you see his ass naked? Like, you're gonna become supernova blush level, because Jesus.
Well, hopefully by that time she'll be, what's the word, regulated or exposed. Forgot what the word is.
Exposure therapy.
Yeah. Well, she did have the porn exposure therapy previously, so
I have to say though, like, I watched this Japanese drama not that long ago, and like she was still like, oh, I'm so shy. I'm like, girl, you've had sex like a dozen times now. Just get over it. Just lay on there.
it took me more than a dozen times to not be shy. I'm just saying.
Yeah, because you
Awkward.
still kind of go through those awkward, like, am I doing this right kind of phase. Goodness.
Yeah. But at this point, her blush is lighting up the city. It is like beaming up in the sky. There's a generic Comic-Con occurring, and these people visiting are like, the beacons are lit. Gondor requires aid, which is apparently a Lord of the Rings reference.
Yeah, I died. Fucking died at that part.
I was definitely like laughing to myself, and my husband's like, what is going on over there? And it's like, Let's Play came back, it's okay. But my favorite is that it's called generic Comic-Con. That made me die laughing. That was hilarious, especially like, oh man. But like it's, and I don't think you saw that, but under the blush meter it said abandon all hope.
Yes. It's over for you, child.
Yep.
Oh,
and she's like, Charles, she jumps back. He panics. He's like, be careful. And she reaches backwards. He says, you're close to the edge. And of course, they crash to the floor. And well, he just happens to be on top of her on the floor.
Oh no, whatever shall she do?
Tragedy. Absolute tragedy.
Terrible. Like, you know, it's not like she was looking forward to that at all, but you know.
Yeah.
Maybe she coordinated all this. Maybe she's the genius mastermind, just pretending to be inexperienced and naive to get his heart full of flutter.
Oh my God.
Who's cradling her head?
In order for him to come with her, right? Like, right? At least her legs had to be tangled up, because like, I mean, I can't, like, just if it was just the blanket, like, she would fall out, right?
Right.
So they had to be pretty well tangled up for her to like pull him with her.
I think you're right.
Well, I don't know, but I actually analyzed that for like a second, then I realized it was like not super physically possible, because they're not even like right by the side of the bed, they're like far away from the bed. But I was like, whatever, it's the comic, you know.
Comic world.
Yeah, but I mean, he definitely jumped out to be with her because he's protecting her head, so he definitely made some jumping motion there. So, but
goodness,
yeah, it's awesome. And then we have it like kind of from her perspective with his beautiful shoulders and over her, and he's like, Samara, you all right? Did you hit your head? Like, you should know she didn't. You were holding it, but. Like,
I think he's just having a little moment of panic there. He doesn't want to get her hurt.
Like, okay, so I was a swimmer throughout college. I played water polo. I actually played men's water polo because I signed up, like, it was it was the off season. It was supposed to be like an off season, like, you know, stay in shape type things, but they gave school credit for it in college, and I accidentally signed up for the wrong one and ended up playing an entire semester with the men's water polo team. And I have seen smaller shoulders on those guys, and then Charles, like, dang, bro.
What is he doing? What is his routine?
Wider than the ocean. So
I have to say, I've said this many times, my darling dear husband is like 6'4" and broad and a giant. He has those shoulders and he never works out. He also has a giant belly, but like, whatever. He's the professor type. No, it's okay, but it's hilarious because, like, yeah, he has that look. Cute.
Anyway, like, I have pretty broad swimming for so long, but like, dang, boy, good for you.
Yeah. I have to say, after reading all these 4 episodes, it was a real shame my husband's across the ocean.
Oh,
Yep.
That's what Zoom calls are for.
Yep.
Nah, not exciting.
oh.
Not
You're
at all.
zoomed to death anyway.
Oh yeah, you probably are.
No, I don't Zoom that often because even for work, where we don't have that many work calls where we Zoom, so not really. But yeah.
Goodness.
So she's like, that wasn't a dream, was it? And he's like, nope. It's like, oh my God, Samira, and I can't believe I did that. You know, she's hiding her face, and he brings his face down to her, forehead to forehead, which is the sweetest thing. He's like, Samira. And she's like, that was so wrong of me. I'm so embarrassed. And she's trembling and she's just like going in her own thing. And he's like, Samira. And she just continues, I'll understand if you don't want me to work for you anymore. I'll try to explain it to my dad. And she's like, ooh, okay. Like, she's just.
Yeah, she's catastrophizing. Bless her. Oh.
I love how he's like just like looking off like Samara. You know?
Like, hold it. Hang on.
Yeah.
I like that he didn't tell her calm down. I like that he didn't do that here, because I think a lot of people would have said that, like, hey, calm down, cool it. But he doesn't do that. He's just trying to get her attention and is soothing her. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's quite emotionally mature. And you can really see the age gap and the benefits of that. And I know some people are like, oh my gosh, he's 30, she's 22. It's a huge age gap. I'm like, it is not. But the fact that he's older totally shows it. He would not be able to act this way if he was younger and more immature. He has the wisdom and the constraint and the perceptiveness because he's older.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yep. Yep. And he again lowers his head down and she's like, I'm so sorry. But he kisses her fingers that are covering her face, which is, you know, her symbol of shame, right? What she's using to protect herself because she's so ashamed. He's like, I'm not ashamed of it. I love it.
Yeah. And like, I love that that's the way that he comforts her and it registers. She's like, wait a second. He's being so gentle. He's even kissing my tears away. I mean, come on. Whew. That's just,
yes,
She's going for it.
Manji wrote this for us. She knows what makes us happy.
Yeah.
What makes us mushy. Oh, so gorgeous. This is like, when I read this, what I thought it was like, this is like all the fantasies that I've ever had and that probably so many women have had since they were like little kids and like reading all these romance novels. This is just it. It's perfection.
Darcy ain't got nothing on our Charles Jones.
Oh,
it's so beautiful.
2D husbands for life. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. I will say it's funny because like when I met my husband, like I was 20 and he was 27, and like I had all the highs, all of this, like, you know, like, oh my God, he's like, I'm gonna like heal my emotional stuff, blah, blah, blah. And now that I'm 32, oh my God, I'm 32 already, as we know from last week, just turned 32. It's funny because I don't have this kind of dynamic with my husband anymore. Like I don't need him to kiss my tears away. I'm like, I'm a strong, independent woman, like I don't cry like that. And if I do, it's my issue. It's not, he can't fix it. It's my life. So it's just so interesting to see the difference between like maybe the start of a relationship or maybe just being younger in general. Like, I don't know what it would be like if I was 32 and starting a new relationship, but like I'm a person, I think a lot of us when we get older, like we're much more well-rounded and much more confident and maybe don't need another person as much. I don't know. I don't know.
Like I'm like, whenever my husband, like whenever I'm just like, I have an autoimmune disorder that affects my thyroid. Well, unfortunately, the thyroid is what regulates all my hormones. So it actually gives me some pretty intense mood swings. And and I'm already like a really sensitive person and stuff like that. And so like whenever I am like, sometimes I don't want to be touched, sometimes I'm like, no, let me be, I just need some time. But sometimes I like will like, I don't know if you've ever like had like a cat or like a dog like try and crawl into your lap and stuff like that, just like shove their way in there and just be like, I just need you to hold me. So I think kind of relate to that, being the very sensitive person I am. It's like, I need comfort, Yeah. It really depends on my mood.
Oh, what?
I know, you're fine.
I was just gonna say, I think it depends on like your love language too. Like I feel like for Sam, like words of affirmation like weren't working for her, so he tried something. Like sometimes for me, like I just like I don't want to hear you say anything. Just give me a hug and it's gonna be fine. And like I feel like Sam was kind of like the same way. Like he was like confirming that like she's okay and like she didn't do anything wrong and it's okay to like ask for things that she wants. Like maybe not like when she's drunk and they've never done anything before, but I think that he was just like really sweet in that moment.
I also think that like he is going with actions speak louder than words here. He can tell her all day that he does in fact want her, but she's just not hearing it right then. So he's going to show her.
Yes.
That's a really good point. Because then what does he do next? Like he's kissing her, he gets her attention, and then he asks, do you still want me to touch you?
He is blushing, y'all. So that's why I'm thinking like there's a rusty like lock pick kit going in there, so like, yeah, I feel like at least one chain is going to get close to the unlocked. Like maybe it's just not as strong of a lock anymore. You know what I mean? Some rust got in there. Things are happening.
Got a little busted up. Why not?
I was thinking like, after his heart melted, it got a little rusty, so not working well.
Oh, goodness. And he's so serious in this last panel. Like, I mean, he could be all lusty eyes at her, but like he's very in tune with her. She's definitely in tune with him, because I love that we go from her perspective to his. And like, yes, he's blushing, but he's also like, he's really into it.
Yeah. And I think that him, like you were saying, actions speak louder than words. This is his way of affirming that what she did last night was totally okay with him, and that he's down for it. Because, he was like, I rejected you last night because of the whiskey, but now look at this. You're up, you're awake, you're not drunk anymore. And I'm asking if you want to continue because I'm into it. And this is his way of showing her, I wasn't rejecting you. Don't be ashamed. You have nothing to be ashamed of.
Agreed.
And the fact that he forms it as a question and doesn't assume, again, that's huge. And I think it's, I know that we were kind of like talking to the younger audience here and saying like, this is the standard, this is the bar. And also let's point out, because I know a lot of times people are like, oh, how do you do consent in a sexy way? This is how you do it.
Super sexy.
This is how you do it. It can be done.
This is how we do it.
It can be done. And just pointing out that it's typically women who are able to make it look sexy. So just throwing it out there to our sisters.
I never thought it was unsexy. I never even, I don't know. To me, it
Well,
was always
it's
sexy.
usually people making excuses saying that it can't be done well.
Yeah.
And this is point blank calling bullshit on that, because you can do it in a sexy way. Because I was like, holy crap, I need to know what happens next, and you bet your ass I swiped up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, no, the people saying that are the people who just don't know how to do sexy, really.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
they need to read this webcomic is what this webtoon is what needs to happen.
Yes.
All these guys are like, you can't make consent be sexy. Well, we have a how-to guide. Like,
It's called Webtoons. Here's a few examples.
yeah.
Right. Oh yes, that would actually be a great compilation episode idea. Nice. Okay.
Write it
Work on
down,
this.
Mindy.
I don't have
Yeah,
to write it down.
down.
It's in my brain. Wow.
Oh, this was fun.
Yeah. So yeah, final thoughts on this episode overall.
Is it anybody else dying until like next week right now? Like,
Yes.
Did you all fast pass? I know me and Ocean did.
Oh,
You all
yeah,
fast
yeah,
pass? Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Take all of my coins, Mongi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read it all before work and I was like, I'm ready for my day. I'm fueled up. Thank you, Mom.
giving me energy.
I made the mistake of, because I got to it kind of late because I was doing other things during the day. And then like I was reading it right around like midnight, and my husband was like totally passed out. And then I'm going through these and I'm like, son of a bitch, he's asleep.
Right. Patty, that is not a problem. I told you, I said before that my drive is at night and my husband falls asleep, and that you just work your magic. Happens.
I tried, except for we had a toddler wake up in the middle of me trying, and I was very disappointed. So,
Damn it.
Yes. Oh, thank God my kids don't wake up at night. Usually, they don't bother us.
we could hear her coming down the hall, like saying, "Daddy, Daddy," and I'm like, "You've got to be kidding! Your timing is impeccable, child." But yeah,
Mm-hmm. Parenting.
She must
Yep.
be an only child. That's what's going on.
no, she's got 2 older sisters, and let me tell you, like, she's definitely our last.
Yeah.
Oh God.
That's funny. Well, I'm super excited. I'm so happy Let's Play came back, and I'm so happy that we started off with like so much amazing fan service and communication. I was not expecting this. I was expecting like, I don't know, less openness. I wasn't expecting it to be so beautiful and so poignant and so sensitive and so tender. This episode was beautiful, and I'm so appreciative. So thank you, Mongi. I don't know if it's a hard G or a soft G.
Like she has it on there. It's on her social media as Mongol Marie. So I'm just gonna like I assume that's Mongi.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
You're just it's not like I, went to school for history and English, and so I thought that was and some like I still have a really hard time reading words that I've never heard out loud before. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it is Mongi. I should know because I was listening to interviews with her and she introduced herself, so I really should remember.
That's okay.
That's why English is such a weird language, honestly. Like every other language is like pretty, like you pronounce it this way, like they're pretty hard lined about this is how you pronounce this, except for English. English is so weird. So,
Mhm.
can't blame ourselves.
Anyway, so I think if we're discussing English, that probably is a sign that we should end this podcast. But